Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, good afternoon. You're all welcome to another section of Transforming Grassroots Football and Players. And want to see if we have anybody in the room. And this is a platform whereby we use in educating grassroots players and also coaches, proprietors, and grassroots sector in general. If you're just joining us, kindly indicate where you're joining from, your location, and where you're also watching from. This is a platform where we use in transforming the grassroots football and players. And today we'll be having with me Dr. Jimi Osinaike of Summit Orthopedic and Sports Medicine. We'll be discussing about grassroots football, injuries, and doping at the grassroots level. Like we all know, injury has been something that has actually been affecting so many young players, and which has not made them live to the expectation or for them to reach the top of their career. And in most cases, we realize that most of all these injuries started from small, and if it's not properly taken care of, at the end of the day it turns to something that is very big. And you see a situation whereby a player will go to trial in Europe or maybe any professional club, maybe in Nigeria, but at the end of the day he won't be able to meet up with the trial because of what? Because of he has one form of injury or the other that has been aiding for a very long time. And like we all know that we all have this idea at the grassroots. Even up to now, many people still don't believe or still don't know. Not they don't believe, they don't know that there are some doctors that are specialized in sports. They are specialized in sport medicine. And that is why, because most of all these players don't know, you see them, they take their leg, you see they will take their leg to go to meet maybe one aboki in Idiaraba or somebody in Agege, but not meeting the professionals that know much about injury, that knows much about how they can help them take care of their injury. I'm trying to see how to invite my guest in, Dr. Jimi Osinaike of Summit of Orthopedic and Sport Medicine. And this is a very, very important topic, especially for the young players, especially for proprietors of teams, especially most importantly for coaches. What are the things that we need to do? What are the areas what are the things we need to know in terms of injury management? Because you see a little injury that is not well taken care of, at the end of the day you see that such injury become big, and when it comes big, at the end of the day to reach at the top of his level. So I'm trying to bring in my guest, Dr. Jimi Osinaike. I think he's coming up now. Dr. Jimi, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. King. Thanks for having me on this live session. Thank you so very much.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good to have you. I really appreciate. I want to say thank you for honoring our invitation, because I know your schedule are very, very tight. You have a lot of patients to attend to, and I think today is one of your days that you attend to patient, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's fantastic. I really want to thank you, because what we want to discuss today is a very important topic, And I would say this is a topic that has actually, how will I put it, that have actually stopped so many young players for them to be able to achieve their potential in becoming a professional player. And you see a situation whereby a player, not knowing he had a peculiar injury that has been there for a very long time, you see them, they go to professional clubs, maybe in Nigeria or abroad, they won't be able to meet up because of that injury has been there for a very long time. First of all, I want to welcome you to the platform. This is a Transforming Grassroots Football and Players, and the whole idea of this platform is for we to see how we can educate young players, amateur players, grassroots players, even professional players uh, who are on this platform, for them to be able to know how they can help to take their career, or how they can see how they can manage their career to the next level. Because we realize that what is actually lacking in football generally in Nigeria is lack of education. And there is no limit to education, and there is no limitation to it. The more you are educated in what you are doing, your chances of becoming of having enough progress in it. Before we go on, I want to use this opportunity to thank everybody who is watching. Mr. Akin of Fenmark is watching. We have Tommy from Sweden. Thank you for watching. We have Abdullahi Tanko from Portugal. Thank you for watching. We have Ahmed from Germany. We have Mr. Kilich of Right to Win. He's always a adding. Is the owner of Right to Win in Inewi. Is one of the important guest that has always been watching our program since the inception. And I will tell you that this program has been getting a lot of good feedback from coaches, from players, and everybody has been able to learn one or two things from all of our discussion. Like last week, we had one important person who is a strong man in the NFF, Mr. Jubril Nasir, on Zoom Live. We didn't have it on Facebook Live because we had some issue. He doesn't have Facebook account, so we had that on Zoom. We had that on Zoom, so but we couldn't send it to Facebook because of some technical issues. So it was also an interesting topic that we discussed, and the whole idea is for we to see how we can educate these boys, because you will realize that when you look at the number of grassroots players we have, and you look at the numbers of players that made it to the professional, when you check the statistics is very low compared to our counterpart. And our counterpart that we always compare ourselves with is the Brazil. The last time I went to check soccer with, I look at the number of Brazilian players that is playing. They are almost every part in the world, every countries in the world. I must tell you, I checked it from A to B. Almost every country you have a Brazilian player playing. Why is it like that in Nigerian football? Is it because the Brazilian players are having more education more than us? Is it because they are more well structured in terms of their academies are more structured more than us? Why are they getting it right more than us? Because the kind of problem we're having at the grassroots or in football generally in Nigeria, the Brazilian football also had it some few years back. So what are the things that were they able to do that is making them having almost all almost all their players playing in every part of the country and the world? Why? What are the things? And we realize that I think is lack of proper education that is actually lacking in the grassroots sector. And even if you check the Brazilian league, you will see that you have more Brazilian players graduating from the grassroots or from the academies play in their league. Why is it not so in our league here in Nigeria? It still boils down to lack of education. And what we want to discuss today is a very important topic. Is something that most players have not been able to fulfill their potential because of uh, several kind of injuries, major, minor, and minor that was not actually being taken care of at the earlier stage, that turns to major, and at the end of the day, they couldn't take care of it. So once again, I want to welcome you, Dr. Jimi, on the platform. I welcome you, and also I want to use this opportunity to also welcome Ibrahim from Germany that is watching, Otisco's football from Turkey that is watching. We have everybody watching all over the world on this program. Our first view, if I may break your mind, we had about 3,000 to 4,000 views on our first program, and
Wow.
afterwards it has been so increasing since then, and we believe it's something that will help, and we've been getting a lot of good feedback. That's just the basic truth. If we have opportunity of sharing those feedback on this platform, people will understand. People send voice notes, players send voice notes, a lot of calls that this program is something that is welcoming and all that. So we want to use this opportunity to tell anyone out there who is willing, is open for sponsorship or advert or whatever, even though it's an online program, but it's open for sponsorship. At least if there is opportunity for you to do some kind of giveaways to the young players to encourage them and all that, it's going to be a very good one. So Dr. Jimmy, I want you to please tell us more about yourself, where you worked
Okay.
before, how long you've been into sport medicine. I know. Just tell us, okay, Dr.
Okay.
Jimmy. Tell us who Dr. Jimmy is.
All right. Thank you so very much, Mr. Akeem. And I think I must say, this is looking like arguably one of the best online meeting I've been, even though we've not started. But I can already
Yeah.
see the vibe everywhere. And thank you so very much. So I'm Jimi Osinaike, and I'm a medical doctor. I'm not a physiotherapist because some people,
Okay.
think I'm a physiotherapist. So I'm a doctor, and I have an interest in sports medicine. So I have a master's degree in sport and exercise medicine from the United Kingdom, and I've been privileged to work with the under 15 national team. They call them the Future Eagles. So I was with that team to Japan last year. The team went for an invitational tourney in Japan last year, and I've also been privileged to work with the national gymnastic team. Then I'm IOC certified, England rugby also certified. In pitchside care. I currently work in Lagos in a sports medicine clinic, and that's really basically what I do at the moment. And finally, I also have a very strong passion, a keen passion for grassroots athletes, grassroots sport generally, because I believe that uh, sport medicine and sport science, it's a way to actually optimize amongst our grassroots
Okay.
athletes.
Wow. I must say this is a very long CV. The CV, the CV is very long, and I must say I think we're having the right person on the platform today that will actually help in educating us. And there is a peculiar question we always ask, irrespective of whoever our guest is on the platform, and the question is, would like you to tell us which is your favorite Nigerian music and what's your favorite Nigerian food. Which of the music of the Nigerian, especially hip hop. We know
Okay.
everybody love gospel. Yes, we want hip hop.
Yeah.
Is it
Okay.
Zlatan? Yeah, and
Okay.
you give us. Okay, I'm listening.
Okay, so I think the one I've been singing recently is Duduke by Simi. So I know it's not hip hop. I think it's I Life, hip hop
I
I
live.
Life.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, hip
yeah,
hop
yeah.
I Life. So I really love that Duduke by Simi. I practically sing it, every day. So I think that's one music I love to sing, at the moment.
Yeah, can you give us like a kind of, yeah, give us, the audience want
Okay,
to.
okay,
So
okay,
let's see the other side of the, or let's see the other side of you, let's see the other side of you aside the medical
okay,
part.
okay. So
And maybe
there's
you might be opportune to have a record label that will sign you.
hopefully. Okay, so there's this part in the song that says, "That's why my heart they do care
Okay,
do
do
care
do
care
care.
I am Femi I am
Ah,
fair."
your
So I
fair.
I, 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 I practically like that music. It's quite inspiring. So I think that's the
Yeah.
music I sing more at the moment.
Yeah, that's nice. And Simi is a very good singer, and kudos to the husband too, Adekunle Good.
Yeah,
Both
the
of them are
Kulego.
actually
Yeah.
doing very well. So, what about food? What about food? What
Um,
kind of food do you actually like? Your favorite?
well, really, I can eat anything. That is me. But I
Anything
will
eatable?
readily, yeah, I can eat except a cock. I don't like a cock at all.
Uh,
But really,
okay.
I can practically eat any food. And why is because I actually went to a boarding house. I know if you go to a
Okay.
boarding house, you cannot say I don't want
Yeah,
this because
yeah,
because
that's
you just
true.
starve to death. Yeah, you just starve to
Yeah.
death. So I think for me, I can practically eat any food except echo. I don't like echo. So I
Oh,
really don't
okay.
have a
I
favorite
think
basically. I don't have a favorite food.
I think that echo in English is it pap or what is it?
Eh,
I don't know.
well,
Corn
I
pap
think
or so.
yeah, I think it's a solidified form of pap. Let me put it that
Pap.
way.
Oh, oh,
Yes,
okay.
it's a solidified form of pap. So oftentimes,
Oh,
if I have to take the call, I will have to soak it, in
okay.
water. Then use
The
water, use milk,
milk.
use Milo, and I'll prepare it like pap before I can take
uh,
it.
okay, that's
Yeah,
interesting. That's interesting. I would say you are really on my bile. Let me give you three gosa for
yeah.
that. Gosa. Okay, like we'll go into the business of the day. If I may ask, medicine is how will I say it has a different will I say is it category or different sector? Yeah. So, but most people don't know the differences. Like we used to have the pediatrician, we used to have the gynecologist, we have different. So I want you to tell us the difference between sports medicine and other form of what's it
Okay,
called? Yes, other form of medical
okay,
practices.
okay. So, sport medicine is a branch of medicine that deals with helping athletes maximize their sporting performance. And this is done through injury prevention strategies, injury treatment,
Yeah.
drug management in terms
Okay.
of doping, what drug to use, what drug not to use. So,
Okay.
and also in helping the general population to be physically active. So the overarching, theme of sports medicine is an aspect of medicine, dedicated to athletes and other physically active people in order to help them maximize their sporting performance. And why is sports medicine quite unique? This is the reason because athletes or players, as the case may be, have a special kind of people, special in the sense that the way their heart beats, functions, their pulse rates, for example, is different from probably you and I that are not as active. So let's put it in perspective. So, for example,
Yeah. Yeah.
the pulse rate of you and I, usually will be between 8, okay? But for an
Yeah.
athlete that have, a well-developed muscle, so their heart muscles are very, very developed. So their pulse rates oftentimes is like 40, 50. And when you pick a pulse rate of 40, 50, you will think it's something wrong. No, it's not something wrong. It's just because of their physique, of the way they are built. You get what I'm trying to say? So there are peculiarities of athletes. And also because for these athletes, the key thing for them is to maximize performance. So, for example, if somebody comes to me with malaria, now my what I want to do is just to treat the malaria, and the person should be fine. But if an athlete comes to me with malaria, I don't just want to treat the malaria alone. I want to make sure that that athlete is able to go back to sport better and even much more stronger than before he had the malaria. So the peculiarities of athletes has made a specialty like sports medicine and sports science, to come, to forefront. So that is just the summary of what sports medicine is all about.
Okay, so that is what make it it differentiates it from every other medical practices. I think that is very explanatory enough. If I may ask, I don't know if there is there any area of your concentration in sport medicine?
Oh, okay. So there are various people that work in the sports medicine team. So it is usually a team. So
Yeah.
in a sports medicine team, we have the sports doctors,
Okay.
we have the sports physiotherapists, we have even the pharmacists, we have the sports scientists, we have the sport nutritionists, we
Okay.
have the sports psychologists. So it's a team of people working together to make sure that the athlete is performing top notch. Now,
Yeah.
for me, my role in that team is a doctor. So what I do oftentimes is I'm the first person that sees the patient. So
Okay.
I do more of, okay, a patient comes or a player comes. Let me use player, not patient. I'm used to patient. So a player comes to me and he says, oh, I was playing football and I, had a knee pain and all that. And I look at the athlete, I examine the athlete, and I say, okay, this is what I think you are. After doing some other investigations, I might do an X-ray, I might do an MRI, I might take blood sample, and I say, okay, from what I've seen, from this, that, and that, you have a knee, or okay, you have a medial collateral ligament sprain, or you have a meniscus damage. And I tell the athletes that, okay, there are various ways to manage it. Number one, you can either manage it through physiotherapy, okay, then I will involve the physiotherapist, okay. I can say, okay, in the course of your treatment with the physiotherapist, you will need to change your diet. Then I call the nutritionist. I say, okay, this player, has got his knee damage, is not going to be playing for a while. And if he's not going to be playing for a while, his muscles might become very weak and flabby. What can we do to optimize his nutrients? Okay. And because the
Yeah.
player also might not be playing for a while, psychologically he might be down. Okay. Because
Yeah.
players love football, they love their game, and when they're out of the game, they're down. Okay, I say
Down.
I'm
Yeah.
going to invite the sports psychologist. So we work basically as a team. But in a low resource setting such as Nigeria, where you can even hardly find a sport doctor, okay?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And
true.
so you find that, yeah, you can only find a sport doctor. So you find out that the little you have, or the few ones that I have, sometimes will take up the role of the sport nutritionist. Okay? So, for
Yeah.
example, in my practice, so aside from seeing injuries and all that, I also give advice to players on what to eat, what to drink, how to eat, what not to drink. Okay. Now, if I was, let's say, in the UK where they have the money, they have the resource, I would say, okay, go and meet the sport nutritionist. Okay. So, but in Nigeria, the reality is that these players,
Yeah.
can't even afford to see specialists. So, if they see one, that single person must be able to at least provide an overview. So, back to your question, now for me, my primary duty is to diagnose and manage. Okay, but
Yeah.
oftentimes I also help them with things like nutrition. Even I also help coaches, okay, in terms of how to manage their training load. There are people that do that. There are sports scientists that do that, that use GPS and all that. But we don't have
Yeah.
GPS in Nigeria. How many teams can even afford a GPS system? You get, because it's
That's
quite
true.
expensive. So
Yeah.
because it's one of the things that I've also learned, so I've also had to learn more. So I also do that. Okay. But in advanced countries, that might not really be my major role. My major role basically is to what? Prevent injuries, manage injuries, treat injuries, and be able to what? Signpost them to where they can get further what? Further management.
Wow, wow, wow. Dr. Jimmy, I must say a very good kudos to you because we say
Yeah.
part of the problem we're actually having, like you said something now, is lack of having enough sports doctor in Nigeria. And that is why you see a lot of the young players, instead of them to take their injuries or their issues to a specialist, you see them taking it to one abuki in Idiaraba, one
In
person
Agege.
in what's it called, in Agege,
Agege.
at the end of the day, they tends to damage the leg more.
Mm,
And
mm.
I just hope that we're going to be having more people like you that will concentrate on on sports medicine, because in Nigeria we say you guys are very, very, when I say very few, very, very, very few compared to what we have outside outside the world. So if I may ask again, have you before you have you ever participated in any sport before becoming a sports doctor? Have you ever participated in
Yeah,
any
so
sport
I played football growing up. I mean, played it very well. I played street football in terms of even
professionally?
no, no, I didn't play professionally, but I did play street football while I was in high school. I was in my high school team. I
Yeah,
played
okay.
quite a lot, and football is something that I would have done if I was not studying medicine. Okay, so and because I couldn't play football, I decided to, do something still related to sport. That's why I'm doing sport. So I never really played, sport at the professional level, but I played sport. I did sport actively as a student.
What position do you play then?
Yeah, so I was a supporting attacker. So I played behind the
You
attacker.
score a lot of
I,
goals.
yeah, I did, and it was quite funny that at the point in my career as a footballer in high school, I was even playing defense. I
Wow,
was playing
wow.
defense. Now, how did I? Because there was a time in which I fell sick, so somebody had to take my role in the attack.
Yeah,
So by the
yeah.
time I came back, I had lost form. So there was a
Okay.
particular game in which I needed to come in. So I had to come in as a defender, and I played the defensive role well. Okay, and I think afterwards, then I started playing, a defensive, and a four, over time. So I called myself a utility player,
Utility player.
back then. Yeah, back then in
Yeah,
secondary school.
yeah.
Yeah, so I
That
think that's
that's
just my own sporting history, basically.
that's nice. Why I'm asking this question is just for the guests to know that we are not just speaking to someone who doesn't know about the game or doesn't know about football. It's good when you speak to someone who has actually gone through it. I've gone through the game, knows what is in the game and all that, so they can also use their experience to share to others. I would say. If it's still possible, we would love to sign you. Maybe you participate in one of the team in the Sule League and help us to score many goals. So, so
if you can, you can pay my sign-up fee.
no problem. The management will see something they can do about that. If I may ask again, can you tell us a little bit about the major and the minor injury in sport, especially in football, like the major
Okay.
injuries and the minor injuries?
Okay. So, all right. Thanks for that question. Now, before I answer that question, you were talking before this question, you were talking the line of people, going to traditional guys, and
Yeah.
oftentimes their knees are damaged. Okay. Now, permit me to address that later on. Please just try and remind me, because that is a very
Okay.
key thing we should talk about. Now,
Yeah.
one of the major injuries we see in our clinic, one of the major ones we see in our clinic is knee injuries. Okay, we see a lot of players with knee injuries, and these knee injuries are not fresh injuries. There are quite a lot of 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So you see players that have been playing with pain for that long, and it's when they can't play anymore, or their performance has reduced, or they are the verge of probably going to Europe for a trial. Okay, they come to
Yeah.
us because in Europe, these white guys will catch you. You can't hide injuries from them.
You
There's a
can
way they
hide it.
can, do all. Yeah, you get what I'm trying to say. So they come to us. So we examine them, and one of the things we see is that we see things like players having what we call a meniscus tear. So the meniscus is like the shock absorber of the knee. So I'm trying to see if I can see. Okay, so if the athlete can see this, if our audience can see this, now this is the knee. Okay.
Okay.
So there's this shock absorber in the knee. Okay. So there's a shock absorber in the knee. So the shock absorber, is like a biscuit bone, as it were, between the thigh bone and the leg bone. So
Okay.
oftentimes this shock absorber is often damaged. Okay. So we see players coming down with that injuries and all that. The other injury we see players coming down with is what we call medial collateral ligament damage. So you see players complain of, okay, I was playing football, my knee is shaking, my knee is unstable, it's as if I want
Yeah.
to fall. So we see players like that. We also see players coming down with ACL injuries. Okay, so we've seen quite a few players, coming down with anterior cruciate ligament injuries. Okay,
Are
now
these
when you
major
ask these
injuries?
players, why are you just coming? Yeah, now there are major injuries because if you have a very bad meniscus, you won't be able to squat. For example, if you have a meniscus
Oh,
damage, you won't be able to squat. Okay, you might not be able to even play a full match. Okay, because the pain comes. If you have a medial collateral ligament tear or a lateral collateral ligament tear, your knees will be unstable. You might not be able to run. Okay, same with an ACL. You will not be able to do quite a lot of things. Okay, so but these injuries usually start very very simple. So for example, you can just have a little tear of the meniscus that can be managed by just rest and physiotherapy or by use of certain injections. Okay, but because these players go to the wrong people, they give them a wrong diagnosis. So the first step in treating a sports injury is to have the good diagnosis. So for example, if somebody has malaria and you are treating typhoid, the malaria will not go. So that
yeah.
is the problem we have, in grassroots sports. So they go to these guys, okay, and some of them don't even do certain investigations and they just begin to massage the leg. Sometimes they even tell them that, see, this injury is because you are having too much of sex. So they tell
Yeah.
them, don't have too much of sex anymore. Just go back to play. We are going to massage this. We are going to probably put some marks there and all that. Now, the good thing is that sometimes they feel a little bit better, so they go back to play, okay? But because you've not rested the knee well, it begins to damage little by little by little by little. So when it has fully torn, we now see them, okay? And when we see them, what is next is surgery. And at the point of surgery, most of them cannot even afford the money for surgery. So what we are saying in essence, instrument or a big facility to manage these things. I can diagnose someone that has an ACL tear in my office. Okay, I can use my little scan to say, okay, this is it. Okay, I can, so these things come out. So we see quite a lot of knee injuries. Another form of injuries we see is groin. And the groin is a very, very stubborn form of injury. Groin. So if anybody that, oh, my groin
Yeah.
they pay me, if
It's
they
very
pay me, my groin
common.
they pay me. Yeah, it's very, very common. And it goes, it comes, it goes, it comes, it goes, and comes. So it's really quite a very, very stubborn one. And one of the ways in which to prevent groin injuries is to do what we call the FIFA 11 plus warm up. So there's this thing they call the FIFA 11 plus warm up. So it is a warm up program that was designed by FIFA and a group of top-notch scientists to prevent lower limb injuries or to prevent leg injuries. Okay, so studies have found out that if these warm-ups are done regularly, you can prevent groin injuries. Then finally, another one we have is ankle injury. So we see a lot of players have ankle injury, and one of the cause of ankle injuries is because most of our players they play on astroturf. Astroturf is quite a very very hard surface. Okay, some play on sand. So not most few. It's only few players that have opportunity to play on grass. I mean, not even grass, good grass. So we have more astroturf pitches, so which is very hard. For some people, even some players don't wear the right boots and all that. So the force of landing, can actually begin to sprain, their ankle ligament. So these are major injuries we see, in our clinic, on a daily basis.
Oh, that's very, 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 very insightful. And I would say I believe many of the young players that are watching are also being able to learn or be able to pick one or two things that you've actually been saying. Before we go on, I would like to let everybody watching that there is opportunity for you to drop your question at the time when at the time which we will say it's a time for the questions. So, like Dr. Jimmy, you've said so many things about these injuries, you understand, and which is part of my next question. The groin injuries, which is very common, the muscle tear, the hamstring, the ankle injury, dislocation. What are the precautionary measures that needs to be taken to avoid all these injuries? What are the things a
Okay,
player
so
needs to do to avoid all these injuries?
okay, all right. So I'll be highlighting this the points one by one. So one of the things that causes injury is fatigue.
Fatigue.
Yeah, fatigue. Now,
Mm,
if you're observant, you find out that we are having quite a lot of injuries in Europe now. Okay, because players just got back, after
yeah,
so many months. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
there is fatigue and people are not fit. Okay, okay, so that can actually cause injuries. Okay, so how can you prevent fatigue? Now, one of the ways to prevent fatigue is adequate recovery. So after a game, how do you recover after a game? Now,
Yeah.
there are quite a number of ways that you can recover after a game, and I'll be talking about things that you don't need money for, things that you just need to know and you're going to do. Number one is to what? Is to sleep well. Is
Wow.
to sleep well. Now, see, sleep. I'm going to say it again. Sleep is arguably the best form of recovery. Now, after a game or during a football game, what happens is that there is quite a lot of breaking down of your muscles. So there's something called wear and tear. So after you play the game, there's a wear and tear of your muscles. When you sleep well, your muscles are at rest. So your body repairs, okay, those tissues that have been damaged. And it is advisable that an athlete or a footballer have at least 8 hours of night sleep.
Hmm.
8 hours of night sleep. Now, see, these things, when we talk about these things to athletes, they like, no, 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 no be sleep, I no go sleep. Permit me to use their words, okay, so
Yeah.
that we can
That,
relate with it.
yeah. Yeah. You're very right.
Doctor, doctor, oh, no be sleep, Jerry, I go sleep anytime I want
I,
sleep. Now, you find that, at the end of the day, some of them are on their phones, okay,
that's
they are
even
doing
very common. You see
Snapchatting,
them at
they are
midnight.
Twitter, midnight, and there. And in the morning, they are waking up fatigued. Remember, their body has not recovered well from the previous game. And they wake up fatigued, and you go into a game fatigue, you are going to have an injury. Because number one,
Hmm.
your muscles will be tired. So what you are doing at that point that you are pushing your muscle. See, there's an extent to which you can push your muscle. There's an extent to which you can push yourself. So you push it to the extreme, a point comes where your body says, I can't take this no more. So sleep is important. Usain Bolt once said something. Usain Bolt is arguably the best athlete, the best 100-meter runner that we've seen in the world. Says something, I'm going to paraphrase, that he doesn't joke with his sleep. Okay? Doesn't joke with his sleep. And if these young players, when they ask the senior players, you know what they call senior players? Senior players that
Yeah.
are their senior players, they call them senior man. That's the
The
word,
senior
senior
man.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, the senior man. Now, if you ask senior man, one thing the senior man would always tell you is that you need to sleep. Particularly the senior man that is in Europe. They don't joke with
Yeah.
sleep, so sleep is key. Another thing that would hasten your recovery is what you eat after a game.
Hmm.
What you eat after a game. And I'm going to say this: you don't need you don't need to eat like your colleagues in UK or in Turkey or Europe to become
Yeah.
like them, because you don't have the money to buy what they have.
Yeah.
But there are ways in which you can recover. So, for example, after a game, you need three things to take in after a game. You need carbohydrates, you need protein, and you need fluids. Carbohydrates can be gotten from like bars, carbohydrates, and all those things, rice and all. Now, you need carbohydrates because
Fufu,
carbohydrates,
bread.
yeah, fufu, bread, and all that. Now, carbohydrate is your major fuel. Is the fuel your muscle needs to work. Okay, so we call carbohydrates fuel, the fuel of the player. Now, after a game, The best time to take carbohydrates is like in the first 2 hours. Okay, take it in the first 2 hours, because in the first 2 hours, that's when your body is craving for it, and your body can make use of it well. Okay. Another thing you can take again is proteins. Proteins help you to repair your muscles, all those damaged muscles. In the first 1 hour, take proteins. Take things like egg. Now, players will ask me, okay, no, I can't take food. See, I can't take food to the game. Now, if you are a professional, if you want to become a professional in the future, you must be disciplined. So you can
Yeah.
decide, like, when you are going for a game, just take 1 or 2 eggs along with you, so that after a game, you can take it. Okay. Another thing you must do is to what? Is to drink. And I'm not talking about drinking water alone. There's something you can do. There's something called sports drinks. I know that sport drinks are expensive. For
Yeah.
example, Lucozade Sport or Gatorade. I know that our grassroots players in Nigeria cannot afford it. Most of them cannot afford it. So it's not,
Yeah.
let us not mince words. Okay.
Yeah.
But something they can do, there's something we call there's something we call ORS, oral rehydration salt. It's a particular
So
sachet, it's just 15 naira. They use it for diarrhea. So that
yeah.
ORS is one of the best sports drink. So you can just begin to have it, just to replenish, the glucose, the water, and the electrolyte that you have lost. So how to drink, what to eat after a game is important. Hopefully, in subsequent meeting, I can, elaborate more on that.
More.
So that is
Yeah.
just recovery. That is recovery. Another thing again to prevent injury is the training load. See, I've seen people, I've seen coaches that believe that until you train a player, until you do warm up, until you train for 2 hours or 2.5 hours, then the players have not learned their drills or something. Now, it's important you know that, see, you need to grade your training load. You don't just load the player. As a matter of fact, no two players can tolerate the same training load. So there's player A and there's player B. Both of them are in the same team, and the coach is giving them the same exercise routine. See, both of them oftentimes might not be able to cope with it because they have different physiological strength. So, how can you go about, giving players the best training load? We don't have a GPS system where you can monitor the training load and all that. But there's another system that we use, that I use for players. It's called, the rate of perceived exertion, where you can actually, use it. It's quite technical. I might not be able to shed more light in it, but there's a way in which you can, optimize the training load and see. You don't need equipment for this. Okay. So with that, every player has, you're training them according to what they can take. Okay. Then another way you can prevent injuries is by doing what we call the FIFA 11 plus warm up. Okay. This warm up helps you prepare your muscles. This warm up helps you with your balance, what we call proprioception. This muscle helps you with your twists and turns, because most of these injuries happen when players are twisting, when they want to twist. Okay.
Yeah.
And most players have not been doing twisting in their warm-up. For example, most players have not been doing quite a lot of core exercises, so they don't have a core muscle, to withstand, their knees and all that, so they can sustain injuries. So the FIFA 11 plus, okay, is a series of exercises that, coaches, should learn and begin to teach their players. Okay, that is another one. Another way you can prevent injuries is by not taking just any kind of medication or just taking any kind of supplement. So, for example, you see most players take things like Red Bull, okay, Red Bull, Power
Yeah.
Horse, okay. Now, Power Horse, for example, contains loads of caffeine and sugar, caffeine and sugar, caffeine and sugar,
Yeah. Yeah.
and something about the sugar in not easily digestible. Okay, so it can cause what we call stomach upset, and when you're having stomach upset, it can affect your game. You can miscalculate because you're having stomach upset, and you can fall and have an injury. Another thing again that we can do to prevent injuries, to my very difficult, is the training surface. Most of our players, I know it's hard because we are in Nigeria, in which not I mean, in short, we can't even boast of 10 natural grass that are good in Nigeria. So we
That's
can't even
true.
boast of it. Okay. So and most of these guys they play in AstroTurf. So AstroTurf is quite hard. It's a very, very hard surface. Okay. So that is that, but we really
We are
can't
even having low
avoid,
quality of that.
yeah, low quality of AstroTurf. You get so, and some play on sand, and so because these surfaces are hard, and it can actually cause things like ankle injuries and all that. So these are the ways to prevent injuries. So that is so what I've talked about is primary prevention of injuries. So we don't want
Okay.
the injuries to occur at all. Okay. Now, if you now have the injury, there's something we call secondary prevention. Okay, you don't want the injuries to get worse. So you've had the injuries. Now, it's important to say that despite all what I've said earlier on, sometimes you still have injuries.
Yeah.
For example,
Yeah.
if you've had one hamstring injury in your playing career, there's likelihood that you have another one.
Yeah.
There's likely to have another one. Okay. So, for example, if a player has got hamstrings injury, despite the fact that we have strengthened the hamstring, we've done everything we need to do, the player has rested well and all that. Now, if we pick up the hamstring injury fast, we can prevent it from deteriorating. Because hamstrings injury are not career threatening, as a matter of fact. But if it deteriorates, it becomes career threatening. So it's about getting the injuries on time. Now, a good example is Sergio Aguero. So Sergio Aguero I think, had an injury probably 3 days ago. They flew him to Spain. Just today, I found out that I saw something on Twitter that he had done surgery already. You get so it's that fast, and that's because they've been able to pick it and they managed it immediately.
Immediately.
So we need to be able to pick injuries early, immediately, and begin to manage it so that it doesn't deteriorate. So these are the ways in which we can actually prevent sporting injuries amongst grassroots.
Wow. 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 Dr. Jimmy, you're giving to the way I don't even know. I don't even know where I am. Before we go forward, I think someone is actually asking the full meaning of ORS, which you said,
Okay.
and how can they get the
Okay.
ORS? Because I think it's something interesting to some
Okay.
people.
Okay. So ORS is called oral rehydration solution.
Solution.
Oral rehydration solution. So it is what they use to manage diarrhea. So if the baby is having diarrhea, you say you want to go and get ORS. So ORS is, I think it's like 15 naira, and with that
Okay.
sachet you can produce up to 2 liters, about 1.5 liters. Okay. So for you, if you have an ORS, you have a sport drink. So just package yourself. It's about packaging. You have your own sport drink. So you can begin to, so you take your sport drink to the field. Yes. Now, I believe that the grassroots, football, we can do a lot of things that are not capital intensive. Okay.
Yeah.
We can do a lot of them not capital. We don't have to do it. Okay, we
Yeah.
don't have to do it like we did in the US. We need to find what works for us that will give us similar results. So get the ORS, okay? So probably in another Facebook Live, I can begin to tell you how to calculate how much to drink during a game, how to know how much of sweat that you have lost. Now that is another thing for another day, because
Yeah.
you must also be able to understand how to drink water. You don't just go blah 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 blah. No, 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 no. We see what
Yeah.
players done. You understand? But that's another topic. So you can get for 15 naira. So a 15 naira sachet or 100 naira sachet can produce up to 1.5 liters.
Oh, okay, okay. I think for those who are asking, that is ORS. So it's advisable that you try and get ORS for your players or even you players yourself. A 15 naira ORS is not as expensive as a Lucozade boost. A 15 naira ORS is not as expensive as on your phone, and which will be more beneficial to you and your health. So like you rightly said, I hope all players or every coaches or managers are able to listen on of the preventive measures that we can actually take to help in preventing all these injuries that are very rampant at the grassroots level. Doctor, before I will go on again, like like all these injuries that we've mentioned, when they are sustained, what should a player do, or what should a coach do, or what would a proprietor do when
Okay.
all these injuries mentioned? What are the things that are needed to be done?
Now, first of all, when the player has got an, you must tell yourself that this is not going to end my career. So the first thing is to be psychologically prepared that you are going to pull through this injury. It is very, 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 very important because injuries are part of the game. Injuries are part of the game. Messi, who is the
Yeah,
best player in the world today, has got injuries. Ronaldo has got injuries. Sergio Aguero has got injuries. Okay, so you can't, but you must believe. Okay, so after a player comes out with injuries, the coach must listen to the player. I've seen cases in which coaches tell the player now, no, you're just lying. It's because you don't want to play. No. The coach must trust the players, and the player must also trust the coach. Because players, particularly in our settings in Nigeria, even all over the world, players, grassroots athletes, youth athletes tend to trust their coaches more than anybody,
yeah,
even
that's true.
sometimes more than their parents.
That's
You
true.
get. So the coaches must, must be able to listen first of all to these players. A player, okay, I can say of Nigeria, grassroots players in Nigeria are passionate about the game. I mean,
Yeah,
nobody wants to get injured. They are passionate. They want to play. No, 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 no. It's not injury, John. No, listen to the player. Okay, and after you've listened to the player, make sure that you signpost the player. Okay, to the right person. To the right person. Permit me, Mr. Kima, we have to talk, very, very bluntly about this issue.
yeah.
Because most times it is these coaches that redirect these guys to the wrong people or
And proprietors don't
to
use
the
only
right.
coaches alone.
Yeah.
Proprietors
Okay,
too
okay.
are also
Coaches,
involved.
coaches, coaches and proprietors. You tell these guys to go to these people. And at the end of the day, the outcomes are not always good. For some, the outcomes are perfect. But we must come to a point in which let us do things right. Okay. So when you go to meet the right person sees you. The first thing I would do if I see a player is to examine the player. I tell the player, this is what is wrong with you. And after I tell the player, okay, this injury can take you 3 weeks out of the game. You are not going to play for 3 weeks. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do that. I make sure that I communicate well with the player. Communication is key.
Okay.
Now, what I've seen is that one of the reasons why players go to all this Baba in Agege, one Baba in Oshodi, is because the Baba in Oshodi is reassuring them that they will come, that nothing, they will play. And that is what players want to hear. Okay, players want to hear that, coaches want to hear that. And that's because sometimes coaches and proprietors of of these clubs could sometimes be selfish because this player is a key player, because this player has a potential to play in Europe and bring loads of money to your academy. Sometimes you push these players despite the fact that these players are injured, and at the end of the day these players get injured and you abandon these players. So listen to the players, take them to the right places, listen to what the doctor is saying, and I think after that, that's basically one way to go about all these things. So let me reiterate again: psychologically, injury is not the end of life, it's not the end of a career. Believe in yourself. The coaches, who are the first responder, must be able to listen to the players. Okay, then after
Yeah.
you listen to the players, take the player to the right people. I know the one major challenge is accessibility, okay, and affordability. So sometimes people don't know that people like us exist. That's why they send, players to, these other sources. But thank God, for meetings like this. So we now know that we have doctors, that can actually treat players. Then send them to the right people. Then after that, then, well, okay, listen to what the doctor has to say and carefully follow the plan of the doctor together with the coach and all that. So that is the way to go when a player gets injured.
Oh, fantastic, Dr. Jimmy. Fantastic. I think someone is asking that are fruits also
Okay.
advisable for taking as supplements? What kind of fruits are to be combined, and at what duration should the food be taken?
Okay. So fruits are good. As a matter of fact, some of these fruits contain sugar, which can give you glucose and energy. So fruits are pretty fine. So what I even explain to players is that try to get a couple of fruits. Get oranges, get banana. Bananas are a very, very good food for athletes because bananas, give you quite a lot of energy. Okay. Get
Yeah.
bananas, get watermelon, then crush it together and make like a smoothie out of it. Okay. So that is perfect. So you can use it before a game. Okay. Let's say probably 2 or maybe 2-3 hours before a game. You can take, fruit, okay, particularly banana, it gives you energy. After a game, you can also take a bit of fruit. Then, in terms of supplements are not fruit, okay? Supplements are, are things people take, to get other nutrients. I always advise players generally that you don't naturally need supplements. If you are taking the right food, you don't need supplements. Okay,
Okay.
and this is confirmed. If you are eating well, you don't need to take supplements. Okay,
Right.
if you have to take supplements, it could just be because of various reasons. So for example, you can, okay, for a
Right.
very good example is somebody that is a maybe a 7-day Adventist, probably is a 7-day
Okay.
Adventist, and they are not allowed to take meat.
Meat.
Okay,
Yeah.
if your religious inclination doesn't allow you to take meat, we know that meat is a good source of protein, then you might have to resort to supplements that can provide you protein, that can provide you amino acids. Okay, so that is a different instance. But if your religion allows you to eat quite a lot of things, then eat the right thing. You don't need supplements. And this is because most of these supplements contains banned substances. Okay, I'm sure that we'll still go into doping.
Yeah,
So
we
most of
talk
these
definitely about
supplements
that. Yeah.
contain, yeah, so some of these supplements contain prohibited substances that are not too good for your health. So fruits are good, but you don't necessarily need supplements if you are eating well.
Okay. Supplements like taking Wellman, blood tonic, and the rest of them are not actually good.
Yeah, well,
As
man.
it should.
Yeah, no, no, no. You don't need them. So I'm not saying they're not good, but you don't need them. Basically, if you
As a
would get
sport
all those
person.
things from your food, you will get it from your F4. You would, yeah, as a sport person, you don't necessarily need them. Now the challenge we have
Uh,
there in Nigeria because we don't have. I think I have to talk about doping to answer that
no, we'll
question.
still go there.
Now
We'll still
because we
go
don't
there.
have.
We'll still go into doping.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
we're still
okay,
going to.
okay,
Okay, yeah. Before we
okay,
before
okay.
we go
I think I can
forward,
just stop.
you said something now that the proprietors and the club owners or the coaches should send their players to the right places, because we see situations whereby a player will have injury, will be sent to a doctor, but a doctor who does not necessarily know much, who is not a sport medical personnel. I don't know if you understand me. So,
I do. I
where
do.
can you give us an example of where they can send their players to? Because
Okay.
when you say they should send them because some people might be watching and think, oh, let me send him to a doctor. What kind of doctor did you send that player to? And
Okay.
if you can give places, because this is an avenue for we to educate people.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so very much. So now this is a very good question, Mr. Kim. Perfect question. Because we have seen players, you've seen footballers that got injured, went to a general hospital,
Yeah.
and they saw a doctor in general hospital, and the doctor saw them, asked them to do an X-ray, And when the player did an X-ray, the doctor did not see anything on the X-ray. Then the doctor told the player that you are fine, you can go. But the player is saying that, no, doctor, something they do me for my leg. And the doctor says, see, I've done X-ray, there's nothing, no, go. Now, you can't sometimes blame doctors in general because general hospitals, they are overwhelmed, okay, and, they just see people fast and all that. Now, when the player leaves the general hospital, the player is not confident about the doctor because he feels that the doctor does not really understand him as a player. The doctor is probably seeing him as a general person. So he's not confident. He feels that, oh man, this doctor no even know wetin dey talk. This doctor no understand, say this na my career. Permit me to speak pidgin, hope I'm allowed.
No, yeah, you can, so that we can actually relate with them. The program is for the grassroots
so it's like,
players.
So it's like, say, man, this doctor no understand. Say this leg they pay me, and because the confidence is not there, you just say, I beg, make I just go that baba for Agege, make I go that baba for Oshodi, because the baba for Oshodi will reassure them that there's something wrong with your leg, but I can treat it. You to that is what the players want to hear. That somebody will acknowledge that something is wrong and can tell them. Okay? So that is sometimes why players go to these guys. But I'm here to announce today that we have doctors, we have sports surgeons that manage players. Now, in Lagos, I can talk for Lagos State. Lagos State Sports Commission. I've got a clinic at Roe Park, if you're familiar with Roe Park. So they
Road
have
Park,
a sports medicine clinic at Roe Park. Yeah. They have one in Teslim Balogun. Okay.
Okay.
But I think it's primarily first. So I think it's primarily first for Lagos State athletes. Okay. I think that is primarily first for them. Then for I think there are few private clinics also in Lagos. I can find out and get across to you. But I want to announce here today, I know you've not, but let me just break this here.
Yeah.
That our clinic, we are doing not a giveaway clinic. Our clinic is, Summit Orthopedics is the foremost sports medicine clinic in Nigeria, privately owned. And we see quite a lot of international players and local players, okay? And we've treated quite a lot of them. We are using this platform to say that we would be taking in grassroots teams and we'll be crazy subsidy in terms of treatment. I'm going to say this again, that I'm using this platform to say that our hospital would be subsidizing care for athletes. So what this means is that these players into our hospital, the way they can walk it into a general hospital, and they will see a physiotherapist and a doctor with as low as 1,500 naira. Or this package is specifically for grassroots footballers that are registered under probably Surulere League or Ikeja League and all that. And for this month, for the month of July, we will be taking in like 3 academies. So the competition is quite much. So Mr. Akeem, for those that are interested, it is like a giveaway season for those that want to come for 3 lucky football academies. So we are opening up, our clinic for people to come. And that's because of your question about accessibility. Okay, so I'm talking about, our clinic is open. Lagos State, I know Lagos State has got something to do, but from our own clinic, we are ready to give players as low as 70% subsidy on treatment, 50% subsidy on surgeries, We are willing to give players up to 60% or 70% subsidy on physiotherapy. And that's because we want to make it accessible. And but this is only for grassroots football clubs that are registered under a recognized league. And for the month of July, we are going to get in people. I know so many people will come in,
Yeah.
and 3 clubs would be on board by July. Thank you so very much.
Wow. Wow, wow! I must say this is a nice, a very kind, nice gesture from you and your team, and I hope every club owner, if you are there, Mr. Akinfemak, Mr. Kelechi, okay, you are in Inewi, and every of my fellow club owners, if that is watching, I think this is a very good offer for us, for we to jump in, and I think this will help us to be able to manage the injury worries that we're having in our team, because in as much as we are doing football business, it is only when we have these players, their health is okay, they are physically they are okay, mentally they are okay, that is when they can give us what we want. Else we'll just be doing it. At the end of the day, we might not end up to get what we want to get. I think Mr. Tommy from Sweden, that's the director of Tiki Taka, is asking. He said, how does Ramadan affect the performance of a player during that period?
Okay, so it's important now. Very good question. Now, Ramadan, it's now because we need to also respect people's religious inclination. So we can't say players should not, do the Ramadan. But what they can do is that when they are, eating, I think they call it probably sare in Yoruba or something. So that early
Yeah,
morning food
so
that they take, yeah. So it's important that before they go to bed, let them take loads of carbohydrates. Okay, loads of carbohydrates. So and in the morning, if they okay, so let's say they are going to have maybe a game, maybe like 10 a.m. in the morning. So they are going to take the soho. I think around, is it 4 or 5 now? Maybe
it's
around four
five,
five.
yeah, around five,
It's
depending,
fine.
yeah, depending on
Around
the.
5. So around that 5, so 5, so that's like 5 hours before the game at 10 a.m. It's
Yeah.
advisable that they take protein. Okay, so you can get protein from milk, milkshakes, fish, meat, and carbohydrates. So load carbohydrates again. So you can take things like, you know, yam, pasta,
E-
and all that.
Eba,
Yeah,
fufu.
eba and all that. But try not to take so much if you are going to be playing less than 4 hours before that game, because you want the food
Yeah,
to also digest. So in
digest.
Ramadan, what is advised in Ramadan is that you also try not to play games when it is very hot. Okay, so I would rather play games during Ramadan in the morning. Okay, I will not put games in the afternoon when it's hot, and players can be dehydrated, and that can predispose them to injury. So take a lot of carbohydrates a night before. When you are eating around 5 a.m. in the morning, take another carbohydrate, but take an easily digestible carbohydrate. Maybe you can take pasta, you can take rice, take meat, take fish. And
Mm.
advisable that you also take what, quite a lot of try to take the game, try to play the game in the morning before the sun comes out. So that is, the best way,
Mm. Oh,
to
thank.
actually, cover Ramadan. And again, try to optimize your training load during Ramadan. So you don't just load players with just any kind of, training, okay? Because
Yeah.
your players will not be able to eat well, drink because of the Ramadan. So try to optimize training as a matter of fact. So I think that is one of the ways you can optimize performance.
Well, thank you, Dr. Jimmy, because I think this issue of Ramadan is always causing issues between club owners and players, because most times you see that players don't tend to give their best performance during this Ramadan, and I think the players can get a lot of from these advices what to take during Ramadan, how to take it, and during Sahur, and after iftar, what you are also need, what you need to take. I want to use this opportunity to welcome Mr. Abiodun Baruwa MON from UK. He's also watching, and also Mr. Olatoye of Sport Flame. Thank you for joining in. And I want to ask you one important question, because I would say this, my next question happened to me while I was playing at the grassroots. Head collision. It happened to me while I was playing. And I'll give an insight. I was playing in the Ikeja League, then at the grassroots. I played in the Ikeja League. So fortunately, we had a game. I can't remember the name of the opponent. This is a very long time. And I had this collision with this guy because I jumped. We went on air with this guy because I would say for me, I have this jumper. In as much as I'm not that tall, but I have a very good jumper while playing. But I collided with this guy, and next thing I found myself on the floor. Bam! I wanted to force myself up. I realized that I can't go again. I went back again. Bah. All I could remember was that I got home. I don't know how I got home. In this kind of situation, head collision, can you just give an insight? Because I know you have a program that is coming up on this particular topic, but for the opportunity of those that won't be on that program, I want you to say something about this. Because I will tell you, even now,
Okay.
I still have my teeth is still broken as a result of that injury I sustained then. So can you just give an insight of head collision or head corrosion?
Okay, so uh, head collisions are quite common in contact sports such as football, rugby, boxing, American football, and the likes. And particularly for younger people, we need to take head collision serious in grassroots sport. Now, when a player suffers an head collision, now you must rule out quite a lot of things. So, head collision can either be due to concussion. So concussion is called a mild traumatic brain injury. So it is mild. Then there's another one that is serious, which is more of a structural injury. So, for example, somebody has an head collision, he faints, he begins to vomit, he begins to jerk and all that, or probably begins to bleed. Okay, but you won't often see that serious form of head collision in football. The most common one you will see is the mild one called concussion. Okay, so when a player has got concussion, the first thing is that we must be able to recognize that this player has got concussion. I would always emphasize that recognition is key. Without recognition, you will miss a lot of things. So one of the ways to
Mm,
know is that a
mm,
player, has an head-on collision, okay, and the player
yeah,
falls down, okay, and oftentimes, when the player has got head collision, concussion, the players can even still play. They fall down, they go back playing. So
yeah,
the coaches or the healthcare professionals must now begin to keep an eye on that player. Okay. So oftentimes you just find out that the player is always out of position.
mm,
Okay, after
mm.
the collision. So you just find out that this player, is out of position, is a left back. You are seeing him play midfield
At the
and all
right
that.
back.
That's because, yeah, at the right back. So that's because the player is now beginning to have, the symptoms of concussion. Because
Mm,
when you have concussion, sometimes you will not be oriented in time, in place, and in person. So I say
mm,
it again. So when the player has a concussion, you might not even begin to see the symptoms at that point. So the player falls
mm,
down, the player begins to play again, but the coach or the healthcare professionals must now begin to keep an eye on that player. So oftentimes,
mm,
what you would notice is that the player is out of position. The player, is just probably having, is not in the game anymore and all that. Then immediately you signal to the referee and they stop the game, okay? And you go
yeah,
to the player and you begin to ask the player certain questions. So there's something we call a Madoc question. That is provided the player is still active, okay? Because
yeah,
sometimes when you have concussion, you can go into loss of consciousness, like what happened to Taiwo Awoniyi two weeks ago. So
yeah,
when you have
yeah.
concussion, sometimes you can have loss of consciousness. And when you have loss of consciousness, the first thing you want to be sure is that, this player is alive, this player is still breathing, okay? So what we saw in Germany, what that happened to Awuni was that he had loss of concussion, and what the coach was trying to do was to make sure that his tongue does not fall back, okay? So because when your
That's
tongue
the
falls
referee.
back, Yeah, sorry, the referee. So because when your tongue falls back, okay, it blocks the airway, okay, and when it blocks the airway, you'll not be able to breathe well, okay. So what the coach did was to first of all to prevent death. So that why he was trying to put his hand in his mouth, but that was because the coach recognized that this player airway is compromised. He might not even know it was concussion, but he knew that the player's airway is compromised. Then the guys on the pitch side, rushed down and they stabilized his head and they did other things. Okay, so you
Yeah.
must be able to recognize it. So after recognition, make sure the player is fine, is breathing. When the player is breathing, you take the player out of the pitch and you begin to ask the player certain questions. Okay? So one of the questions you can ask is called the
Yeah.
Maddock question. The Maddock question. So the Maddock question is that you will ask the player, where are you today? Okay? Now, when the player suffers concussion, sometimes they lose orientation. So you ask the player, let's say the player is a Manchester United player and is playing in Old Trafford, and you ask him, where are you? And he says, I'm in Stamford Bridge. Then you know that, okay, something is wrong.
You know
You
there's a
also ask the
problem.
player, there's a problem. Another matter question you ask the player is that, okay, are we in the can answer these Maddock questions? The player is having headache, the player is not oriented, or you say this player suffered concussion. How can you manage concussion? So you take the player probably to the hospital. So oftentimes you might not even need to take the player to the hospital. What the player needs is what is also rest the brain. Because concussion is not a structural damage. It's not structure. It's not as if there is a fracture of the skull. It's not as if the head is bleeding. No. It is more
Yeah.
functional. Functional in the sense that, let me try to explain in layman word, it's like settings ori daru. What the Yorubas will call it settings odaru or something. Maybe there's just a shake. You understand?
Yeah.
There's just like
Yeah.
a shaking of the function of the head. So what the player needs to do is just to rest. And by resting means that the player would not be allowed to watch TV. The player will not be allowed to do anything tasking. Okay? And usually in 7 to 14 days with concussion, the player is back. Now, if after 7 days or in the course of 7 days, the player is having increasing headache, the player is vomiting, the player is coming in and out, it's not gaining consciousness, then you are thinking it can be something else. It is concussion. And when you recognize it, the player has to come out. Sadly, in football, I think it's just now that we are beginning to take head collision serious in football. In rugby,
Yeah.
where they take head collision very serious. When a player has got head collision, you don't even need to inform the coach. You don't even need to inform the referee. The doctors run into the pitch. I mean, they run into the pitch. And that's because for a rugby game, the doctors have like an iPad with them. So they are monitoring the players. So when a player has probably an head collision, they will do what? A replay on their iPad. That's on the pitch side. And like, oh, something is
Yeah.
wrong. And they immediately run into the pitch. So it's just recently that, FIFA is now beginning to say that when there's an head collision, then the referee must stop the game. Okay? So because if it is not dealt with on time, it could be very, very dangerous. So first of all, recognize that this is head collision. Recognize what concussion is. You might not be able to recognize it immediately. Okay. But when you begin to see
Yeah.
players, in and out of position, okay, stagger, then you go in, okay, and
Yeah.
call the referee. Okay, this guy, seems not to be fine. Take the player out. Take the player to the dressing room. Ask these questions. if the players can't really answer these questions, then the player needs to leave, probably leave the stadium, go to the hospital, let them assess him, let them be sure that he's not probably, a structural injury, but concussion is mild, and if properly managed, players are back in 14 days.
Wow, wow, wow. I think this is a very deep, a very, very deep explanation. And I think you've been able to tutor us to understand that when a concussion happens, you need to recognize and you need to be watchful of the player. And also, the player sometimes just all they need is for them to rest for 7 to 14 days for them to gain a recovery, which is a very, very good explanation. And lastly, on injuries, if I may ask Dr. Jimmy, also I want to use this opportunity to welcome Mr. Mojid Eshin of Lagos State. Is a representative executive member of the Lagos State Football Association. He's also joining on us on this platform. He's also an admin listener of our program, Transforming Grassroot Football and Players. And also we use this opportunity to welcome the Madam himself, Abibat Oloyede, the CEO of Abibat Football Academy in Lagos, and every other person watching. So to my next question, when this injury when it becomes major, like we recognize from minor to major, so what are the steps or what are the things that needs to be done?
Okay. Okay. All right. So when it becomes major, so let me use what we do in our practice. So oftentimes when a player has got a you know a chronic knee injury for maybe for like 6 years and all something, and so now we say it is major when the player has failed medications, he has failed physiotherapy. That means he has done physiotherapy, he has used medications, and he has not improved. So oftentimes, a major injury will require surgery.
Okay.
Now, it is important to note that for footballers or for athletes generally that have knee injuries, shoulder injuries, there's a kind of surgery that we do. It's called arthroscopic surgeries or
Mm.
keyhole surgeries of the joints, of the knee, of the ankle, of the shoulder. Now,
Mm.
players are always afraid that, okay, surgery, doctor, you want to open my leg? Okay, I
Mm.
go still if you play again. Players are afraid that if they have a scar, when they go to Europe, okay, they might see the scar and they will say, oh, this guy can be a liability, or this guy I've gotten injured before. I don't think we can sign him. So
Sign him,
that's one
yeah.
reason why they don't want to do surgery, okay? But with arthroscopic surgery, it is just a little scar. Sometimes you don't even know that there's a scar there, okay? Because we are not opening up the knee, we are not even opening up the shoulder, okay? It's just a very, very little hole, so they do surgery. So oftentimes, after the surgery is done, the player is out of the hospital. Even the following day, he's out of the hospital the
Mm.
following day,
Mm.
at most 2 days, okay? So, for example, we did a meniscus repair for a grassroots player in Lagos, and in 3 days, he was out of the hospital using his crutches to walk. The guy is back playing football now. I mean, he's back playing football now.
Wow.
So after
Wow.
the surgery, we
Wow.
did rehabilitation. Then he went to meet the physio. We were giving him the diet, the food he has to eat. Psychologically, we were preparing him, because when players have got surgery, sometimes they are out of football for like 3 months. Okay, they are scared that, okay, will I be able to go back to my performance? So we did a whole lot of things for this player, and this player is back. I mean, he's back playing, he's back jumping, and if not because of the lockdown, he will have been playing quite a lot of games. So surgery, which is often what players require for a long-standing injury, is not a death sentence. It's not a death sentence. As a matter of fact, in Europe, these players do these surgeries like it's a common thing.
like
It's called
like pure like
arthroscopy. They
pure
just
water.
go, they just use cameras. Yes, exactly. They just use just use like a scope, very small, just like this biro. They put it inside the knee, and they just check the knee. Okay, is anything fine? Is anything wrong with the knee? And If there's anything wrong with the knee, they just shave it, and the player is, comes back probably 3 weeks or 4 months, and it's done. And these things are done in Nigeria. These keyhole surgeries are done in Nigeria. So players should not think that it is, you know, the death of their career. No. And
Mm.
after that, players must now begin to, what they call gradual return to play. Okay, so a player has got, has done surgery. We don't expect the player to just begin to play 15 minutes or 30 minutes. Okay, so we
Yeah.
tell the player, okay, you've done surgery, you've done your rehabilitation, you are good to play. Then we send the player, go and play with the junior team first. Okay, go and play with
Yeah.
the under 10, under 11. Okay, then if you are sure you are good with under 11s, okay, we say, okay, now come to the senior team, come and play 10 minutes, come and play 5 minutes, and we begin to graduate the player until you are rest assured that the player can play at least a full game. But
Full game.
major injuries are not a setback. They are not a setback. I mean, they are not life threatening. However, there are cases in which a player has got, let's say, an ACL injury. Now, ACL injuries are quite very tricky. They are quite very tricky when you have an anterior cruciate ligament tear. They are quite very tricky. And they are very tricky because it can be career ending. It can be career ending. But the good thing is that for young people that have got ACL, because you are young, your body heals faster. So your body is able, has the capability to heal faster. So the chance of a grassroots player having an ACL and returning back to play is very high compared to a senior player like 20, 28, 29, and all that.
Mm.
So for grassroots players, it is not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. If you are afraid of a scar, arthroscopic surgeries are there. And even if you are going to Europe, you must, again, after major surgeries like this, when you are going to Europe for trial, these guys want to also know about your health history.
Your history.
Yeah, history of your health. Now the mistake people do is that they don't present their health history, and when you don't present it, and the white guy, peradventure finds it, it begins to see that something is wrong. So what we are doing now for players is that, we are writing, health reports for players. Okay, so we
Mm.
can say, okay, this player is 24 years old, is this, is that, is fine, his heart is fine, is this is fine. He had a surgery 5 years ago, and we did the surgery, and he's back playing, and there's no issue with this player and all that. So that is something, we also do for players to reassure them that, they can go back playing.
Mm. Mm. That's really really wonderful. If I want you to, because we have a lot of us here are layman, I want you to actually use the layman language. What really is an ACL, so that a layman or the
Okay.
young grassroots player will know. You use our grassroots terminology so that they can know what an ACL is.
Okay, so I'm trying to like get the knee. So
Okay.
this is the knee. I hope our guests can see it. So this is the knee. Okay, you cannot see it now.
Okay.
So this is a knee model. So just see this as your thigh muscle. This is your thigh muscle. Okay, this is your kneecap. Inside it now, this is your kneecap. Okay, now inside the knee, there's a ligament that connects this bone, this big bone, to this bone down. Okay, so it's
Okay.
a ligament inside the knee, okay, that helps in stabilizing your knee. Is one of the major stabilizers of the knee. Okay, so
Yeah.
it is that ligament that prevents your leg from just shaking like this.
Shaking.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it is called the anterior cruciate ligament. So it is actually inside. It is inside here.
Okay.
Okay, it is
Oh, okay.
inside. It's inside. Okay, so this is the. It's actually not so clear here, but it is inside. So the ligament is inside, inside the knee. Okay, that's what they call the anterior cruciate ligament. So oftentimes when it is damaged, begin to see the leg, shake,
Will be
it begins to
shaking.
wobble. Yeah, it begins to wobble. Players cannot really play because the leg becomes unstable. So that's what they call the anterior cruciate ligament.
Is it the same? Is it the same thing as an injury whereby a player will be hearing crack 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 on his leg,
Yeah. So sometimes
on the knee?
when the player begins to hear crack 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 on the knee, that player oftentimes is because the player has what they call arthritis of the knee. So when you begin
Okay.
to hear crack 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 crack, it means that bones are already touching bone. Okay, bones are not meant to touch bones. Okay, so just imagine this knee model again. Okay, now imagine this. Now this is the knee. Okay, so this is one bone
Yeah.
up, and this is another bone down. Okay, there's a shock absorber just between this bone and this bone down here. There is a shock absorber. Okay, the shock absorber is called the meniscus. So there's this shock absorber. Now, if the shock absorber was not there, this upper bone will be
We'll be
rubbing on this
touching.
lower bone. Okay, will be touching
Okay.
this. So sometimes this shock absorber, which is called the meniscus, can tear. Okay, it can
Okay.
tear, and when it begins to tear, this bone now begin to touch this. So begin to as when player bends his leg, begin to have crack, crack, clicks, clicks, and it's quite very very common. It's very very common amongst
Yeah,
players that we
very,
see in
very
our
common. Yeah.
practice. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
quite common. It's quite common. So there's a way in which you can actually treat arthritis for players. I hope that is clear.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay. That's fantastic. Okay, Dr. Jimmy. Now let's go to our second topic for the ball. Doping in football. Doping in football. Can you tell us what doping is, meaning of doping, what doping is, and all that?
Okay. Now, doping is the use of prohibited. So these substances can be medications, drugs, supplements, recreational drugs. The use of these substances to enhance sporting performance. So doping is the use of banned substances to enhance your sporting performance. So for a substance to be classified as a doping substance, it must fulfill at least two out of these three criteria that I'm going to mention now. So
Okay.
such a substance must be able to enhance performance. So a good example of a doping substance, for example, is what we call steroids or testosterone. A good example of a steroid is testosterone. So boxers, for example, or those that carry weight, makes use of steroids to build muscle. So it can help you improve your performance. Number take a lot, have a side effect on the health of athletes. So one of the side effects steroids can have is that it can predispose you to diabetes in the long run. Okay,
Okay.
it can cause you, even to have cataract on the long run. Steroids can damage your ligaments. Okay, on the long run. Okay, and the third criteria is that such a substance is against the spirit of sport. What is the spirit of sport? Fair play, equity. So when you begin to cheat, that is against the spirit of sport. So any substance that is against the spirit of sport that would enhance your performance, that would also have a negative effect on your health, such a substance is prohibited in sport. So that's just an overview of what doping in sport is all about.
Okay, like if I may ask you, using our terminology or a layman language, can you give examples of a steroid? What a steroid is like?
Okay,
Any
so
example of it, so that
yeah,
the young
yeah,
boys or the
yeah,
young
a
players
very good
can know?
example, a very good example that players know is testosterone. So testosterone is the major sex hormone. So there's something we call hormones. So hormones are chemical substances in the body. So they are the chemical substances in the body. So testosterone is a major sex hormone in guys.
Guys, yeah.
So this testosterone, so this testosterone have been produced. So scientists produced it. Okay, so players get this testosterone. This testosterone can help you to build your muscle. Okay, so for people that do boxing, for example, that you need muscle. People that carry weight, for example, that you need muscle. They take testosterone to build their muscle. Testosterone also helps you to recover fast. So after a game, so athletes are able to recover fast if they take testosterone. Okay, so testosterone is a steroid. Basically, it's a steroid that helps in building muscle. Another, substance that athletes use is called erythropoietin. So erythropoietin is a substance that helps you to produce cells. Okay, so
Okay.
the red blood cells in your body, the red cells in your body are what helps you to pick oxygen. Okay, so
Yeah.
for players that are involved in endurance sport, because for endurance sports you need lots of oxygen to endure. So players
Yeah.
sometimes take this erythropoietin. So when you take erythropoietin, it boosts your blood level, it boosts your red blood cells, and when you have enough red blood cells, you'll be able to pick up oxygen from the atmosphere. And if you can pick up oxygen from the
Okay.
atmosphere, you will not get tired easily. So such a player can play 2 hours and is still running up and down. Okay, so these are common examples of banned substances that athletes use.
I think all these big names that you are mentioning, I know those ones are not very cheap to get by, but we find out that the use of codeine, tramadol, and even you see some players, they will tell you if they don't take alabukun, they can't play football. So many substances like that. Some will tell you if they don't drink agbo, they can't play. Are all these substances regarded as doping substance?
Okay, so let's talk about.
And if sorry, and if what way do they work?
Okay, so let's talk about the common one. Let's talk about tramadol. Tramadol is common. That one very, 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 very common. People abuse tramadol. Now tramadol is a painkiller, okay, and something it does.
Yeah.
Actually a banned substance. Tramadol is not prohibited. Okay, so if you use tramadol, it's not a banned substance. Okay, and but it is on the monitoring list. It's one of the medications I want to really see if side effect of taking tramadol is that oftentimes when you take a lot of tramadol, it can affect your heart, particularly for players that already have issues on their heart. When you go up too much of tramadol, tramadol can cause you to have a sudden cardiac arrest, and you can even die from taking overdose of tramadol. Another thing about tramadol is that when you take tramadol, oftentimes people become addicted to tramadol. So you see players that if they've not taken tramadol, they cannot play. So you become addicted to tramadol. When you become addicted to tramadol, what happens is that you begin to have a withdrawal symptom. So if you don't have the opportunity to take the tramadol, you begin to feel uncomfortable. You begin to begin to shout on people and all that. So those are the side effects. Then there's another one called codeine. Now, people use codeine also just because of the pain, okay? And codeine is also addictive, very, very addictive. So it is that. Then another one they use that I talk about is alabukun. Now, alabukun has a stimulant, okay? Has a stimulant
Yeah.
inside. and that stimulant inside is banned. So what the stimulant does for you, actually, so what the stimulant does for you is that when your body is tired, the stimulant tells your brain that it can keep going. Okay, so you're tired physically,
Yeah.
but stimulant tells your brain that you can keep going. So it stimulates you, it makes you hyper in a game. So you are not tired, sort of. You are not tired. So these are the things these things do. But even if this now, sincerely, some of these things are not banned. Like tramadol is not prohibited by, but even if it's not banned, its effect, you know, is something that players must also consider. Now, some tramadol and overuse of tramadol can cause a sudden cardiac arrest, and a lot of players are using it. Who knows how many players have died because of their just stopping tramadol anyhow? And because most of the players don't even do tests to know the state of their heart, the state of your heart. Stopping tramadol will worsen, an existing condition. So what I tell people is that number one, you don't need painkillers for every pain. Not all pains that you have as a footballer is because of the game. There's something we call psychogenic pain. It can just, and a psychogenic pain, a pain in your head, would not be cured by tramadol, would not be cured by alabukun. It will definitely not, such a pain will be cured by psychological intervention, psychotherapist, okay? And there are certain pain, muscular pain that most players usually have. You need to understand that.
Yeah.
See, why must you begin to use, for example, diclofenac every time? The side effect of diclofenac, ibuprofen, some of these things can affect your kidneys. Now, football is just for like 12 years. Then after
Yeah.
football, you begin to the side effect of the medications that you have taken. Also with kidney issues. That when you have pain, seek the advice of an health professionals. What other things can you do? What are the safest medications that you can use for your pain? So this is the way to go. So tramadol is addictive and can, too much can have a side effect on your heart. Codeine is addictive, okay? Codeine is addictive. Alabukun can also cause dehydration. You just find out that it can cause you to be, going to the toilet and all that. And when you get to the toilet, when you start losing water, you can also collapse. When you're losing water consistently. So these things have got loads of side effects, and players must be wary of taking this.
Fantastic, Dr. Jimmy. This is really, really enlightening, and I believe everybody or every young players that is watching are able to learn to understand that tramadol causes heart attack, codeine can be addictive, while alabukun also is not also good for the system. All these substances and every other substances, steroid and all that, are banned substances in football. Anything that you take that that will enhance your performance above the normal is advisable that you don't take it. And if I will ask Dr. Jimmy, can you please talk about the anti-doping rules and regulation?
Okay, so we have 10 anti-doping rules and regulation. We have 10. Okay, now 10 of those rules apply to players. Those rules apply to coaches, doctors. So it is important to know that anti-doping rule violation is not
Okay.
only for players. It can also apply to club owners. It can apply to coaches. It
Hmm.
can apply to parents.
Hmm.
So people must know that.
Hmm.
People must know that. So one of so
Hmm.
so anti-doping rules. So one anti-doping rule is number one, when they find these banned substances in your system, probably they take your blood sample or your urine sample.
Are you there? Are you there? Network. I want to use this opportunity to thank everybody who has been watching. I think Dr. Jimi network is very bad, and I think we're on, but I want to see how I can invite him back so that our discussion. Uh, okay, I want to see how to invite him back so that we can continue our discussion. It's not coming yet. Okay. Dr. Jimmy, if you're watching, kindly please, if you can add me or you send an invite so that I can add you. I want to use this opportunity to welcome Mr. Fola Fola. Welcome, thank you. We see that you also said uh, injury has also shot your football career, but we thank God you're actually doing well now in where you are. Also, use this opportunity to welcome Mr. Emeka. Thank you, Mr. Akin from FEMAC that has been with us since morning, and Mr. Yusuf Oshikoya. Thank you, Tommy from Sweden. Thank you, Mr. Mojid. Thank you, Mr. Evramutu. Thank you, and Oscar. Thank you, and every other person who is watching around the world. Thank you. And if you have the opportunity of sharing this video now, we will advise you to kindly please share the video because there may be somebody, a player somewhere that it might be of help to. I want to see how I can bring in Dr. Jimmy back. So Dr. Jimmy, if you are watching, kindly please send an invite. Okay. 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 Dr. Jimmy, please send an invite in. Okay, I'm trying to invite you in. I'm trying to invite you in. Dr. Jimmy, please send invite again. Try to send an invite again so that I will invite you in so that we can conclude our conversation. If anyone has any question to ask Dr. Jimmy, kindly you drop the question so that he can give answers to them. And if there is anyone watching, I think there are ways we can improve on what we are doing. You can actually also send your comments to this comment section, or you try as much as possible send it directly to me. So this platform is also a platform where we can use to discuss about grassroots football and players, and also how we can educate the sector and make it better. I'm trying to invite Dr. Jimmy in, and hopefully I think he's coming in now. Okay, I think he's coming in.
I'm very sorry.
Yeah, the network is bad, I
Yeah,
see.
yeah, yeah. I'm very sorry. Yeah. So you were
Okay,
asking
okay,
about.
okay.
Yeah, I guess you were asking me about. I can't remember now.
The network is very bad over there. Can you maybe pause? Okay, Dr. Jimmy, can you?
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay, welcome back, Doctor.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, welcome
Okay.
back. It seems the network is very bad there.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Uh, okay. Okay, now, like that we are talking about the anti-doping rules and regulation. Can you say a bit
Okay.
so that
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I was saying that there are 10 anti-doping rule violations, and 10 of those rules applies to athletes, and five out of the 10, applies to athlete support personnel. And
Okay.
athlete support personnel entails, coaches, parents of athletes, agents and managers, and even club owners. So let me
Okay.
mention, quite a few. So number one is when an athlete tests positive for a banned substance. So for example, they take what you call it now? They actually take a blood sample from an athlete. Okay, they take a blood sample from an athlete, and they find in that blood sample, that urine sample, they find something like erythropoietin, or they find a banned substance like testosterone, or a banned substance like morphine. Then that athlete, has flouted, the anti-doping rule. Number two, if they find with an athlete, a banned substance, you are not even using the banned substance. Okay, if they find that you are trafficking a banned substance, or you are in possession of a banned substance, then you have also committed an anti-doping rule violation. Okay,
Oh, okay.
so again, if an athlete, for example, if an athlete is invited to be tested, okay, they invite you for testing, and somehow you are trying to evade the testing processes, then you have also committed an anti-doping rule violation. Okay,
Okay.
so if an athlete, for example, there's something called athlete whereabout. So athlete whereabout is a system in which you can be called to present your blood sample without prior notice. Okay, so athletes are expected to present, to actually update where they are going to be, in every 3 months, their location where they're going to be. So
Yeah.
if, let's say, you put it on the system that in this so time of the month, I'm going to be in Victoria Island, number 4 in Victoria and in Lagos, and the anti-doping of officials get to that point, and they don't see you there, okay, and they don't see you there, it is also an anti-doping rule violation. Okay, so these are the anti-doping rule violations. So, for example, if a coach or a manager is is found in possession of a banned substance. So, for
Okay.
example, a coach or a club owner somehow gives his player banned substances to use to optimize their performance, that coach, has committed an anti-doping rule violation, and it can be subjected to what they can ban such a coach, such a parent or such a doctor from being part of sport for life. And
Mm.
if any player is having a relationship with that coach, or if you're having any sporting relationship with that coach, it is also an anti-doping rule violation. So, for example, if a football coach has been caught to commit an anti-doping rule violation, and a player is being coached by that particular person, that
Mm.
is also an anti-doping rule violation. It's called
Mm.
prohibited association.
Mm.
Prohibited association. So that means athletes, see, footballers, grassroot must even know, because some agents have been blacklisted because they've committed anti-doping rule violation. So
Mm.
if this agent, for example, is not the one trying to work your papers to go abroad, it is called a prohibited association. Now,
Mm.
if you were actually relating with somebody that has committed an anti-doping rule violation, if you're having a sport, association with them, you as a player, you have also committed, an anti-doping rule violation.
Mm.
So players must understand: are their coaches, free? Are they clean? Are their
Mm.
agents clean? Otherwise, if your agents are not clean, it's going to be a problem. Now, you might think that they will not know, but in the future, when you are playing in Europe, and somehow they find out that, oh, that agent that you worked with, has been trafficking, banned substances, it's going to be what a stain to your own integrity. Because
Mm.
even though you might not have taken a bad substance, people will say, you have an association with him, and that
Mm.
can tarnish your image. Whatever you have built over time, it can tarnish your image. So for players that are planning to go to Europe, grassroots players wanting to go to Europe, you must begin to understand this anti-doping rule violation, because if you are not used to them now, you will struggle when you get to Europe. Now, I once read a
That's true.
story of, players that go to Europe and they are not able not use banned substances. In Nigeria, oftentimes you can do anything because we don't have rules and regulations. But when you get to Europe,
Yeah.
there's something they call player whereabouts. They are monitoring you. They can call you up anytime to be tested. And if you have been so much addicted in playing with tramadol or with codeine, if you are so much addicted with playing with steroids here in Nigeria, when you get to Europe and you can't play with it, okay, your performance drops and that affects you a long way. So players must understand it and doping violation. Club owners must understand it. Players must not associate with club owners, that have been blacklisted. There's a list on the WADA website, where the blacklisted people are there. And I must say this, that the Nigerian Anti-Doping Committee, they are rebranding that committee. As a matter of fact, an executive order has been passed, empowering, the Nigerian Anti-Doping Committee. So very soon, they are going to be laying out certain rules and regulations. And I believe that, nobody wants to fall, prey, of this anti-doping regulation, because it can tarnish whatever you have built for years. So I hope that is clear.
That's really, really, really insightful. Like this anti-doping rules which you mentioned, is there any site or anywhere they can access it, like the WADA site, like you say? Is there any site, maybe you can
Yeah.
mention it so that the viewers can
Yes.
actually go and check this?
Yeah. So if you go to World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, so go to their
World Anti-Doping Agency.
website, agency, WADA. So go to their website. So all these informations are on their website. And if you need clarity, you can, speak to me, okay? Because I'm also certified by that agency. So I'm certified by that agency. So you can talk to me, and I can also give advices on these
Okay.
anti-doping rule violations.
Okay, that's fantastic. Before we end the show, doctor, there is this common usage again among players, among grassroots players, and even this also have also actually destroyed so many careers. That's the use of marijuana. The use of marijuana.
Mm.
You know,
Okay.
we call it Ido, they call it SK, they call
Ego.
it different kind of names. Yeah. So what
Shisha.
effect does it actually have on
Okay.
the player's performance?
Now, see, marijuana is common in our sport, in football. Igbo is common in our football. And we can't deny the fact that it's destroying a whole lot of lives.
Yeah.
If we are promoting sport as a means by which people would come out of drug addiction, then we need to begin to talk about this issue. Because I've seen cases in which, I've seen grassroots players tell me that during halftime, that players smoke igbo before second half,
Yeah.
which is marijuana. I've seen
Yeah.
cases like that, and I'm sure that Mr. Akeem, I'm sure now these things are not new.
No.
You get, and
Yeah. Sure.
these things are bad influences on grassroots football. Okay, because in grassroots football, we are not just raising, players to go to Europe. We are also raising people, that would be well behaved, people that will be
Yeah.
disciplined, and people that will not flout anti-doping rule violations. So, cocaine or marijuana, as the case may be, is banned. Okay, and what it
Yeah.
does is that it has a stimulating effect on your brain. So it stimulates you. It causes your eyes to be open. You are sharp. It energizes you. And you are able to do quite a lot of things. Okay, so marijuana, is actually banned, but according to the World Anti-Doping Agency, now, because marijuana is also a recreational drug, it's also recreational. Recreational in the sense that some people take it because that's just a way to relax, just the way some people
Mm.
take alcohol. So
Yeah.
you can't really stop people from taking marijuana. Okay, so the World Anti-Doping Agency is saying that marijuana is only banned in competition. Okay, in competition. That means out of competition. That means when you are not in competition, you can, you are allowed to take marijuana. But if peradventure, when you are playing a game or after a game, they test you and they find out that marijuana is in your blood, you are in trouble.
Mm.
Now, the problem in Nigeria is that we don't test players after a game. For example, after every EPL game, certain players will be tested. They will just call them randomly. Okay,
Yeah.
they will test them. They will test them after every game. Okay, and they will test you. So if they test you and they find out that cocaine is in your igbo or marijuana is in your blood, you'll be banned. You can be banned for 4 years from playing football. Okay,
Mm.
but outside of sport, yeah, out of competition, to find you can take it if it's just a way of relaxing with your guys, with your fellow colleagues, and all that. But really, why should people? But we must be very sincere. We can't say people should not take it because people have different ideologies. Have different perception to life. But because it's addictive, most people would use it in Nigeria during the game. Let's say a game is tomorrow. People use it before the game. People even use it during halftime just to
During
maximize
after
their
game, yeah.
performance. Yeah, during and
Yeah.
after game. So it is actually wrong. It is wrong. And we want to begin to talk about these things now because I begin to see young players saying that you need to take this thing before you can play.
Yeah. Yeah.
And coaches are, yeah, some of them don't believe. They
Yeah.
don't believe that these things that you can play without these things, and you see coaches, proprietors encouraging these guys to take because their own is just that we want these guys to go to Europe so that we can cash in on them, the business part. But don't destroy the career of players, okay? Don't destroy their career just because you want them to have top-notch performance. We must begin to encourage
Yeah.
the fact that see you can actually have top-notch performance, without taking these banned substances. Okay, so we must, kick against taking of, at least, taking of marijuana, during a game, during competitions, because it is prohibited by the World Anti-Doping Agency.
Wow, wow, that's really, really insightful, Dr. Jimmy. I want to thank you for this buttress, for this explanation which you've given. And like we all know that marijuana in Nigeria is also banned, is a banned substance. So it's not even about sport or no sport. So it's advisable that you don't take it. It's advisable that you don't take it so that if you are being caught by the law enforcement agency, we all know what the result will be. So it's very, very important that we try to keep the best in our society. Like you said something now, which is our own mission at Team 360, is not only producing players, but also producing someone who is going to add value to the society. Before we go, lastly, Dr. Jimmy, uh, I want you to say to tell us what Summit Orthopedic wants to do or change or support at the grassroots concerning
Okay.
about the
Okay.
challenges
Thank you.
that we are having.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much for asking that question. Now, one of the things I want to do is I want to make sports medicine and science accessible and affordable. We want to help our players, our grassroots footballers, and our athletes to maximize their performance. Mr. Akeem, I once read, I don't know how true it
Okay.
is, that grassroots football in Nigeria is the major place where the Europeans come to scout for players, not even the NPFL.
Very true.
So, yeah,
Very true.
exactly. So, what that means is that we are not even, maximizing, the grassroots football in Nigeria yet. It means that we can make
Yes.
billions of dollars, from grassroots football, just the way, Brazil is doing. We can make
Ye-
billions of dollars. And one of the ways
Yeah.
to make billions of dollars, from grassroots, football, is to take care of our athletes, of these footballers, because if these footballers are not in top-notch performance, they will not be able to, we will not be able to sell them out. Then we can't cash on them.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we want to do is first of all is how can we help grassroots footballers in Lagos maximize their sporting performance? It is not only about talent. Okay, it is not about talent alone.
Yeah.
We need a place of sports medicine and science. What I want to do is I want to make it accessible. Accessible means that you can walk in just the way you can go into a general hospital, walk in and all that. So you can walk in, register, and see a doctor at a very subsidized amount. Now, we've been doing quite a lot of survey, and one of the surveys that we have found out is that most players, would want to pay. For example, now we are not saying that's how much we're going to charge, but we are seeing a survey that most players say that they can at least pay up to 1,500 naira for registration or 2,000 naira to see a doctor. And what we are trying to say is that we are ready to partner with grassroots clubs in Lagos to provide a subsidized sports medicine. And by that, we mean that you walk in, you are seeing a trained doctor, you are seeing a sport physiotherapist, you are seeing a sports surgeon, and they are giving you their expert opinions. So, for instance, you can walk to our clinic and you get a card for 1,500 naira. You see a doctor for like 1,500 naira for 2,000 naira. And in subsequent visits, you are not even paying for card. Subsequent visit, you are probably paying like 2,000 naira to see a doctor. If you need physiotherapy, we are saying, okay, don't come and pay 5K, because we know that athletes, grassroots players cannot afford 5K for physiotherapy. Instead of going to that bone setter in Agege or in Oshodi, why not come to us? Why not pay as less as 3,500 or 3,000 for physiotherapy? Aside from that, we are also going to, provide, if an athlete needs surgery, for example, instead of paying, let's say, 500,000 naira for surgery, we can give you a 50% subsidy and say, come and pay 250,000 naira for subsidy, for surgery. So these are the things we want to do. Again, we also want to provide, training for, these academies, so this football club. So, for example, we want to train the health professionals of, for example, of 360 Football Club. We want to train your healthcare professionals in how to manage, injuries on the pitch. So we can organize seminars for you people. You understand? We can facilitate seminars for you people. We can, upskill, your own health professionals. Okay, so that's what we want to do. But we want to be very sure that we have, clubs coming to us, not as individuals. So it is not about a player coming. We want a player to come, under a particular team.
A black club.
Now, and the reason why this is important is because, under a club, because if you just throw it open, anybody can come. Okay?
Yeah.
So, for example, a player comes and is registered with us under 360. Okay, 360 Football Club. So he comes to us, he shows us his ID card. So we are sure that, yes, this player is from 360. And the player would enjoy that subsidy. Any other player or any other player not registered, any other club not registered with us would not be able to enjoy that benefit. So that is what we want to do, to make it affordable and accessible. Our clinic is open, our website is open. We have, the best of facilities, and we are ready to provide, sports medicine care, sports science care, for our athletes. We are also ready to help athletes if you need medical reports. Yes, we are ready to help, in providing medical report. If you need to do a pre-competition medical screening. So, for example, before the Silver League starts, some players might want to do some heart screening. Now, why can't we partner with you in doing heart screening, doing functional tests? So these are the things, that we want to do. We want to stop the issue of wrongly diagnosed sports injuries. We have seen a whole lot of them, and it's getting quite worrisome. We know these players cannot afford surgery, so let us prevent them. If you can't prevent them, let us pick them. Let us pick these injuries up on time. So if you pick them up on time, then we can be able to advise further. So these, all these goodies, would start by July 1st. So, Mr. Akeem, I want you to use your discretion. I don't know, because I want to use your discretion to select 5 football academies in Lagos, in Surulere League, that we are going to pilot this week for July 5. Use your discretion. 5, get back to us and let us kickstart this journey in ensuring that the grassroots footballers in Lagos, are confident on the pitch of play, because they know that they have doctors that will take care of them. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jimmy. Thank you so much. Can you please tell us the address where your office is actually located?
Okay, so we are looking at 5 Adekunle Close, 5 Adekunle Close off
Five,
Karimulaka, Egbeda.
five
Yeah,
Adekunle
5
Close.
Adekunle Close off Karimulaka in Egbeda.
Is there
So you
any
can go on
any?
Google.
Okay, okay, you can go ahead. That's what I want to ask.
Yeah, so if you go on Google, just type Summit Orthopedics Lagos. Our website comes out. It's one of the best websites you've ever seen in Nigeria. Our website comes out, then you see all the information. So, a matter of fact, one of the things you will see on our website first is Ogenyo Nazi in our clinic. That's one of the things you will see when you
Yeah,
open that website because
yeah.
he's been to our clinic, okay, and it's one of the places. Anytime he's in Nigeria, he comes to our clinic for follow up. So it's not so we have treated both international and local players,
Local,
in our team.
local. Thank you very, very much, Dr. Jimmy. I want to say today's conversation is one of the best I've ever had. I've never had up to 2 hours. I think this is more than 2 hours conversation. It's always less than 2 hours. But health issue is very, very important. Injuries is something that is very, very also affecting so many players. And I want to really appreciate you for all the advices, the recommendation, suggestion, and everything that you've said so far, and the way we can also together make the grassroots sector a better place. Like we all say something now, like you said something now, and even which is part of my opening, we are not maximizing our grassroots sector enough. We are not getting the desired result, because I always believe that grassroots football is $1 million investment, is $1 million return on investment industry if we actually know what we are doing. If the Brazil as a country can be generating a lot of money, even generate money to the government through football, through grassroots
Mm-hmm.
football especially, because the grassroots football is the bedrock of any footballing nation. That is where it starts from. And when the foundation is not properly solid, then definitely there will be problem at the top. And if you check very well, the transition between our grassroots football in Nigeria to the professional level is still very, very low. That is why you see our Nigerian Football Federation, or what they will be looking for is those players that have been brought up in UK. They will start chasing around there, start chasing them up and down. Those that are born in Germany, they will start chasing them up and down. And when you look at these players that they are chasing up and down, are players that their grassroots foundation are very, very, very good. And this is the narration which we want to change. And we believe together with you, with every other person, every young mind that sees the vision that we are seeing, that sees that football can be better, that sees that football can go back to the old days where we used to have secondary school boys that makes to the national team, where we have secondary school boys that are playing even at the national league. So we want to see how we can bring this whole thing back and make the grassroots football better. And lastly, Dr. Jimmy, what is your advice for grassroots players and coaches who fight us in general before we end the show?
Now, my advice are succinct and clear. Number one, my advice is that we can change the narrative. We can change the narratives of sport in Nigeria,
Yeah,
and there is a lot of untapped potential. We have not even started scratching the surface. Okay, I believe so much that we can have a structure in grassroots football that the NPFL would also begin to envy. Okay,
yeah,
that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about the grassroots football, because I know that it is not under government control. You understand? It's a group of privately owned clubs coming together, so we can begin to set the pace. We can set the pace. So there's a lot of work for us to do. We can set the pace, and also for grassroots athletes, I want to advise them that, see, take your education serious. Take it very, very serious. Now, you can
hmm,
actually do both together, because see, an educated athlete, it has a long way to go, even based on the way you take care of yourself. So if you're educated,
yeah,
if you are literate, it also even affects things like sports medicine and sports science. So I want to encourage our athletes, take your education serious. And by education, I'm not just saying that go to school. It's not just about going to university. Make sure that you are deliberate about learning something new online. Go online, read about something, sensitize yourself, learn something new. Let your cognitive ability, let it be top notch, because these things have a way of also affecting your game, because you are bred wide, your brain is working very fast. So that's what I want to encourage the grassroots athlete for the Surulere League, where Team 360 is. I want to encourage us that, see, let us change the narrative. Let us change the narrative. A whole lot can be done. And also, we are ready in some orthopedic and sports medicine to provide our services. If necessary, in terms of pro bono, we are ready. In terms of providing subsidized care, to make sure that Surulere League is up there, we are ready for it. Let us, go all the way to make sure that grassroots football in Nigeria is the best in Africa and is the best in the world.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jimmy. Thank you very, very, very much. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate your team. I want you to use this opportunity to also send our profound greetings to everybody working with you in the team. And we believe that together, Summit Orthopedic Sport Medicine, and together with everybody or every stakeholder, together we can change the narrative in grassroots football. Thank you once again, and I believe anytime we call you, that you will be there for us to attend to us. Thank you very, very, very
Definitely.
much. I want to use this opportunity also to thank everybody who has been with us since morning. Mr. Akin Femak, indispensable Ola David is one player that has always been a very, very addictive listener or watcher of this program. And also, I use this opportunity to thank everybody who has also joined and have left. So I want to say a very wonderful evening to everyone. Thank you, Dr. Jimmy. Have a wonderful evening, and we hope we'll see
And
you
you
some other
too.
time. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. We're gonna be ending the Transforming Football, grassroots football and players live now. I want to thank everybody. Platform, and if you don't have, you can inbox me. And if you really want to know more about Summit Orthopedic and Sport Medicine, you can also as well inbox me or inbox Dr. Jimmy, so he can give you all details. Thank you, everyone. We're going to be sharing this platform on YouTube and also on the podcast for everyone who has not been opportune to listen. Thank you once again. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.